Okay guys, so this is the old blade. The battery went dead on the camera. I don't know what is on there at the moment, but I'm just going to kind of start over. This is the old blade. These are the, let me see what you're seeing here. These are the tools I use. It's a grinder, small grinder, and it has a blade that's on an angle here, which I like, the cutter. I could use a straight one, it doesn't really matter, it just depends on how you hold it. I have a file, a fairly fine file, a stone for adjusting the teeth, and this is for cleaning the file. So basically that's all I have. I don't use anything else, and this stuff seems to work good. The point here when you're making a cut, I always start with knowing where the weld is, so I know when I end. I mean, you can see it. It's not that I can't see the sharpened blade. It's just I like knowing where the weld is, and right now the weld is right there. So I'm going to start at this first one. What I do, I'll just stop the air from leaking for a second. First of all, I put some oil in this, like 3 drops of oil, just to get it going. And then you hold it so that this tool is basically in the center there, and just run off of it, just like that, okay, on each tooth. Whether they're up or down doesn't matter. I do the same thing to each tooth, just to get it to sharpen. And clean this grinder thing here off a little bit. Looks like somebody dropped that. Maybe Carmine did, I know, or maybe I did it. We gotta just make sure we stay away from that and work in the middle here. But this grindstone is plenty good enough, and I have other ones, to sharpen the blade. So all you do is just, like I say, you're basically holding it. I'm putting my hand there. I'll keep my hand out of the way for a second, but I keep my thumb on the tool, my hand on there, and basically hold it in the same shape. That's all I'm trying to do. Now you don't want to hit this tooth while you're sharpening this one. You just want to get in the middle here, in the middle, and ride off. And you can tell by looking at it whether you've done that or not, because you'll see a clear, clean looking metal line, like a clean file or a clean knife. Okay, that's what I'm after. And I'm going to start right here by where the weld spot is. You want to, like I'm sitting on a stool, a high stool, so you want to have this at the right height so you're not killing yourself trying to work it. Looks like it could go down about an inch. So let me crank it down an inch and then we'll go from there. Okay, so that should be good then. You get a feel for this stuff. There's nothing else I can tell you. It's not magic sharpening a blade. You just got to have a touch, and you got to understand what you're trying to do. So I go over that. Now you can see, like, I'm rubbing over top of these and it's not stopping me. But when I come to this, it's has a little bit of sharpness to it. Now you can tell on the end there it's a little dull yet compared to where I hit it in here. So I'm going to have to go over this again. Now it's getting a nice tip on it there. You can see that I'm not sliding by it. That means it's getting sharp. So then what I do is I put a file in here, and it's 10 degrees. From the back of the blade to this angle here is 10 degrees. So all I want to do is just get off whatever's on there so I can have a sharp feeling point. That's what I need. I need that sharpness on there, and I can feel it on my thumb. It doesn't matter which way you hold this because it only cuts in the forward direction anyway. So not bad. I put it on the face there, kind of hold it straight. And when I look at this, I can see on the very edge there, I don't have, on the very edge right where my thumb is, I don't have a nice clean looking metal. It's a little dull, so that means that it's not sharp either. So let me go over it again. Okay, that seems a lot sharper there now. And all I'm doing is knocking off. Yeah. I'm knocking off the filing that might curl over. Now there's not a lot of that happening, but that's what my intentions are. So I got a nice sharp blade right there. So what I do is I usually run the grinder all the way down, and then I test them as I use the either the file or I'll use this. Either one of them works good. The problem with this is you can see it's wearing down on me pretty good. I got to get another one somewhere. But you just hold the edge so it's in line with that angle. Yeah, it's really got a nice sharp thing on it there. And as long as it feels sharp to your thumb, it's gonna cut wood. That's what you have to understand. And I'm not pushing hard on this, okay? You can see how easily I'm gliding on there. But when I come to this, it stops me. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that sharpness that's in there. You just want to... Now this is going to take a little bit more work than what they normally do, because Carmine really, he didn't hit anything, but he did wear this blade down. It's basically got nothing to grab here, so we need to get it sharp. So that's what I'm going to do here today. I'm going to take the camera and see if I can bring you in here closer. Now you can see, and I hope this is picking it up, this tooth has not been sharpened, and you can see the dullness, the coloring of it, and there's a little bit of sap and stuff in there. This one has been sharpened, but if you look at it on the top there, it's not quite right. What I want is something like this, or even better yet, like this. Something that gives me a point. I can feel the point, okay, on my thumb. Now this one's a little bit dull. And I have a nice clean looking edge to it. And the only way I've been able to do that is with this grinder, because it grinds quick, and it doesn't take long to fix that. And they feel that they're definitely got a point on them, and I'm not able to pull over them, but they're kind of just hanging onto my skin. So that's where I'm saying they need to be sharpened with the file or the stone. Like I say, you can use either one. The best thing is not to run over the blade. If you run past the face of the blade, you're going to take the point off. So what I do is I open up the choke here. Let me see what you're seeing. I open up the both things so that it's not as wide as I can get it to cut as many blades as I can. Yeah, that makes a major difference, just squaring that edge up. Because when you hit one side, you're rounding it over a little bit. You need to square that up. And this little tool, this little stone, or the file does that. So I like what the stone does. The stone seems to make a lot neater edge on there than the file does at times, but the file does work. So you can see, I mean, I'm really not pushing hard on this, and I can tell which one is sharp and which one isn't. Yeah, and as you see how they are in sharpness, then you can move away from them. They're all feeling pretty good. I just need to back file them. Okay. Now you can take the file or the grinder and you could grind this face if you wanted to, but it's such a small thing that you tend to get a little goofier, at least I do at my age. So if you're a little younger and a little more stable, you might be able to do it a little easier. Now, there's probably somebody out there who could take this tool and mount it on something to make this work better. I'd really like to have something mounted on the outside of the saw so that I can just sharpen this without having to go get the tools and bring them out. I didn't bother to go that far yet. I know I can come up with something, I just haven't done it. This is all good here. Now, when it comes to shaping the wood, or the tooth, I mean, up or down, I start here, and the way these teeth go, if you start at the grindstone, you can actually feel that this tooth is aiming down. You can feel that this tooth is aiming up. Now you have to be careful with that. What you might want to do is lay something on there and then look at it. You can see that the tooth is below the blade. You can see that this tooth is holding this up off. It's touching at this end and it's touching the tooth. And then this one here is basically flat. And that's what you're after. So what you have here is you have a down, an up, and a flat. So you don't do the flat one. So what I do here then is I put the tool on, and there's a little, when you squeeze that, this holds the blade and it forces the tooth. Now, you can't really, you can definitely bend teeth with this. There's no doubt in my mind that this works because I've seen the lines in the wood from using this, sometimes too hard on something or not, but that's not the point. I don't mind some lines in the wood because I'm planing everything in the end. So what you want to do is you want to take the tooth that's hanging down and then remember that pattern and don't mess it up. So you just put that on there, put the pivot point in there roughly where the tooth is, and just squeeze it. Then turn, go the opposite way. This one squeezes up. You can see it moving there, I believe. Okay, and then this one doesn't move, so you basically let that alone. Now, when you're filing the teeth, like normally I'll file teeth like every, I don't know, every couple hours. I usually file a blade every single day almost. It depends on what I cut. The flat one, you really should try and, you know, get the burr off of this flat edge here if you can, and just leave the point, worry about the cutting. So right now what I have here, these three look good. Actually, they're all pretty good. This one here needs a little attention. Yeah. I'm just checking over what I had already done to make sure they're okay. All right, so I'm gonna right down to the end there. So I'm gonna take my pliers. Remember, down, up, straight, down, up, straight. So down, up, straight, and I don't check this. Down, up, straight. I don't check to see how straight these are, but I do check, like this is a straight one, and you can feel the edge has no burr hanging on it. What I like to do, like I say, is I like to get rid of that burr that's hanging on there if I can. It doesn't take much to get rid of it either, because sometimes you get like you'll get dust hanging up on that burr, which slows the blade down. But it's not like that you have to be perfect with it. If it's not perfect, it's still gonna cut. That's where people get mistakes. They're all confused over what cuts and what don't. Okay, so here we go down again. So we're gonna go down and then up and straight. And like I say, this because I'm grinding more than just once. It doesn't take much to take that off of there. And I still have a nice straight sharp point there in the front. Now if you sharpen and you're starting to get like a little mark in the back here, you can easily take this and just do the back if you want to round that edge off, and then that actually does the whole tooth then. Okay, so this one's down. Giving the offset helps the blade to have space so that the teeth can run through the cut, and still the main part of the blade has an area to get through there without, you know, trying to fight its way through the cut. It's a little bit wider. The way what I'm doing with the teeth here makes the cut wider, the saw kerf wider, and it helps the blade to go through easier. That one blade, this blade actually has sharpened pretty much that whole one pile that's there of wood. Okay, so this is a flat one here, so I don't have to worry about that. And then what I do is I usually move this. You got to be careful now, you don't want to cut yourself. You can wear gloves if you want. I know where to grab, but you can put your fingers in the teeth to help give yourself some grip on there. But yeah, that's nice and sharp there. Okay, that's a dull one. I can't explain it to you any other way, but I can't pull my finger over top of this without getting caught. I'm getting caught on my skin. These, I'm just showing you, it's like I can run over all of them, and they're dull. So we're going to start right here and then work our way down. Now, one of the other things, when I use the tool, when I use this tool to offset the blade, the tip, when I first started doing this, I used to wait till the end to do this so I wouldn't get confused over where everything is. And I've gotten to the point where I can feel the down point. Like this is a down point, so that would be flat. This would be facing up. So I'm okay with those. As long as I know that, I can just keep on going. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'll get back to you if I change any of the pattern that I'm following. Okay, I hope you can see this. It's very sunny today and it's hard for me to show you everything, but if you look at this here, this is one I have not sharpened. This one I have sharpened. Now you can see that it's shiny all the way up to the end here. Okay, it starts about here and then it's shiny up to the end, and all of them are pretty much like that. Now sometimes when you go over it, you'll see a black line either at the top or the bottom. Sometimes it's even in the middle. That'll tell you where you're hitting. So you need to hit so that you get a solid shiny line there. You don't want to sharpen it and end up with like a dull black line on one side and not on the other. I'll show you after I adjust the set on these. I'll show you that on the next row there. Okay, I don't know how good you can see this. I sharpened this blade, but I didn't sharpen this yet. So what I want to show you is, and I hope you can see it. Now I just ran over there, but you can see that in here, I didn't hit it, it's black. Okay, and it's shiny here and here, but on the very top, the top of the surface, of the flat surface, you can see a little bit of a black line. You want that out of there, that black line. Sometimes it takes a couple of swipes, and you want to run over the edge of this, but you don't want to go around it. You want to come away from it once you get to the end. And you can feel like this one is not as sharp. This one has a little bit of black on the top. This one has some black on the bottom. You can see it right here where my thumbnail is, the middle of my finger. This one has it right here. You want that to be smooth, a smooth, shiny surface. At least this is what works for me. Now, if you have something else that you do, keep doing it. But this is what works for me. Okay, so I gotta move the camera so I can finish this up. Okay, YouTube, so I'm done sharpening that now. So I'm gonna close it up and everything and let it warm up. I want to get a small log on there, or any log, it doesn't matter, but I have a small oak log that I want to cut into 4x4s for something. So I'm gonna see if I can get that on there, and I'll show you what the cut should look like when you start cutting and where you can go wrong with your surmising what's wrong with the saw blade. Okay, I'll get back to you in a minute. Okay guys, so I have a log on here now, and what I want to show you here is it's a nice looking log. It's straight, there's no branches anywhere that have been cut off. It's 12 inches in diameter here, down at that end it's around 13. So it's a fairly straight log. There's not a lot of taper except for the very end where the stump is, where the stump was. So where I have the tool there, it's 8'3" right to there. So I'm going to cut this off here. I'll use the rest of that for stumps for firewood rounds for myself, and Carmine can split them then. So I just want to cut this with the chainsaw right here, and then I'm going to cut these in pieces. I'm going to get back to you because I want to show you how this blade's going to be cutting when I start it up there. I want you to see how it should cut and when you know it's not right. So just bear with me a little bit. Let me cut this. Okay guys, so here we go. We have a log here, how do I say, 12 inches, so we're going to get about an 8-inch cant out of this. The log's pretty straight and everything. One of the ways to tell is to look on the bottom and see if the bottom of the tree for the log is hitting the cant, or not the cant, but the bed rails all the way down, and it is. Okay, so it's a pretty straight log. There's not a lot of taper to it. It's 13 inches at that end. That gives you half an inch. If you want to raise it up, you can raise it up a half an inch. It's close enough to my toe board here that I could do that if I wanted to. But I'm not going to worry about that because it's just not something I need to worry about at the moment. So I know that roughly 10 inches or 10.5 inches is where the top of these are. So when I bring the saw over there to be able to make the cut, what I normally do is go down on top of the log just so I know where I'm at roughly. Okay, so right there is 12 inches. So that means that I can basically take a 2-inch cut out of there. Okay, or even a 1-inch cut. I'll take a 2-inch cut out of there without really hitting anything. Alright, and let me just check this here. 11 inches. Yeah. So I'm just missing the top of this by about 1/2 inch or so, which is fine. There's no reason to worry about that. Alright, so I have an 8-inch long log, 12 inches in diameter, pretty nice and straight. It's red oak. All I want to do is start cutting it, get down to that 8-inch mark. Now, if I look at this, you got to realize that the lower you get, okay, the lower you go, sometimes you'll go too low on a small log and you'll miss your cant. So at 2 inches below, I'm actually missing the 8-inch cant. So I got to come up a half. So I'm going to come up a 1/2 inch there. And I'm going to cut that. So I'm going to start the saw and let it warm up just a little bit. The blade is already tight. I don't know if you can see it over there. I have the handle up. It's, where is it out here? Somewhere over in here. The handle, you can see, is above the wood miser name. So, it's not going to take long for me. I'm just going to cut it. But I'm just saying, you want to try and remember you need that 8-inch, 8.5-inch cant. That's what this is supposed to give us. So I'm at about 8 inches there. I'm about an 8 inches width cutting out of the end of the log. So in other words, if I drew a pull of tape from one side to the other, I should be close to 8 inches when I peel this log of this flitch off. So I'll show you. Okay, so I have that piece cut off the top there, and I'm going to show you this end because I always work from the small end. Not everybody does. I do. There's a reason for it. But like I say, not everybody does. So let me just pull this down a little bit here and measure my cut. If you see, I'm exactly at 8 inches there with the cut. So I'm not going to cut any more off of this. Now, if this log had a bend in it or anything like that, you would see it narrow or wide. Now it does get a little wider down at that end, but we're not going to worry about that because that's the nature of a tree. So what we want to worry about is up here. So what we have here is we have a nice 8-inch wide cut, and it'll give me more room to do the things that I want to do here. Now something else that I want you to see. If you notice, when I put my straight edge down here, my straight edge is close enough to that end there that I could sweep off the dust. It's off very, very slightly at the very end. But here's the problem here. Yesterday, and the cut's straight all the way down. Yesterday when Carmine was working here, I noticed he was working a little harder to crank the machine through the cut. And what happens is, as you cut, when you start getting a bevel here, like either an upward or downward, usually it's an upward bevel, you know you have to sharpen your blade. All you gotta do is feel it and you'll know it. So if I feel the blade, I still have a lot of good points on there now, but I didn't yesterday. So now I have a nice straight cut there. I just want to, let me see if I can back you up here to show you the whole cut. That's a 6-foot long piece of aluminum there, or steel. And you can see I have a nice straight cut all the way down there. Okay, so that's when you know you're starting to get your blade wore out, when you start getting this bevelly cut here. Alright, now a lot of times when you start with a new blade, it'll find itself in the log where it wants to be and then stay there. You can cut without an issue. But if you need the very end of the log, now that's down slightly, it might be a 64th or less that it's down where it started. I'm not worrying about that. Now if it was a 1/4 of an inch, like let's say the end of this looked like that, or even more, then you've got to do something with it. And that's what happened yesterday when Carmine was cutting, and I was watching him. At one point it became hard to cut and he wasn't getting a nice straight edge there. And we want straight wood, because the straighter the wood is, okay, the flatter it is, the straighter it is in both directions, the easier this wood is going to be able to keep it nice and square when you stack it in the greenhouse where I keep it, or wherever else you stack it. But if you're going to leave it where it's going to be getting any kind of real moisture and stuff, you need to keep them as straight as you can, as flat as they can be. Plane them if you want, but just get them so that they're going to stay nice. Alright, let me take this piece of flitch out of here and I'll be right back. Okay, so like I was saying, I have a nice flat cut here. You can see it's flat all the way down to the end, so there's no sense in worrying about the saw blade right now, okay? Now, let me just say this to you so you understand that. The way I sharpen, the blade is not as good as when you get a brand new blade, because I'm sharpening by hand. And when you sharpen with a, or when you get a new blade, brand new blade, and you're sharpening, you have a machine that's making every blade exactly the same. My blades are slightly different because I'm doing it by hand. So if you don't like that, or if you think there's something wrong with that, then do whatever you want to sharpen. But I just sharpen the way I do. Works good for me. I don't have to send anything out. I don't have to wait for anything. And everything is nice and true when it comes back to me. So what I'm doing here now is I'm turning this so that this face is even with these angles here for the backstop, because those are straight up and down. And then I'll put the dog against that just to pin that into place. Okay? So now I want to cut along the top of this, right at the edge there, and get a nice straight cut on that to get to my cant. Now if we look here, we have a little bit more than 8 inches, and 8.5 inches is what we're supposed to be able to have for this particular log. 8-inch cant is what I'm after. So I turned it. Now, a lot of people ask me, why don't you turn it all the way around? I can. There's nothing stopping me from turning this log all the way around. The only difference would be if I did pick the end up. Let's say I picked the end up 1/2 inch to offset the taper in the log. You want to keep the toe board under wherever you have bark. Now, if I turned it so that this side was down, then I would have to take the toe board out to make my cut. And I don't want to do that right now, because I want to stay in the pattern of going from bark to bark. It makes it so that when I do have a problem with something, I know what it is because of the way I'm cutting. So the way I go like this, I have no problem, I just continue. So let me cut this. Where the blade is there, that saw blade is right at the top of where I cut the cant before. Okay, so that's what I want. I want to come right along the top of that. Now it doesn't matter whether you bring the saw blade back with you right away or you take the piece off. It doesn't matter, but whatever you do, you want to have a regular way of doing things. So I'm going to take that flitch off of there and throw it on the backhoe because it's gone to my neighbor. And then we'll have a nice square cant right there. So just so you realize this, one of the things that you need to know is that we do have a little bit of sapwood on the edge of this thing. So we have to go down beyond that to get to the point where there's no sapwood, which we'll do in a couple minutes. Let's just knock the dog down, that's why it rolled over a little. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll this, and now it'll be down on the flat, okay? So now if I had a toe board under there, I would want to take the toe board out, but I don't have one underneath there, so there's no reason to worry about that. So I'm just going to turn this until it's flat and lay it down there. Because it has a straight face, I don't need these boards up here anymore. You can see how nice of a gap there is there. It's the same all the way down. And I'm just going to pull this against these welded on stops, and then I'll dog that after I get rid of the flitch. I'll get back to you. Okay guys, one of the other things I want to show you here where you can have a problem. If you look, you'll see that that cant is laying down on this toe board very nicely, okay? And it's also dogged. You can see the dog against it. You want to be careful when you're working with cants like this that you don't put the dog so high up that you roll the cant. In other words, you roll it back that way and you pick this up, because as soon as you do that, you no longer have a square. The cut that you're going to be putting on top is on this top cut here is going to be on an angle because you don't have it resting on the bunk rail. This is why I say when you put the rail down, make it dead level. The more level this thing is, the better and easier it is going to be able to cut. You can come back to things, you can stop, you can do whatever you want, and you'll be able to easily find where you're at. So I'm going to make a cut off the top there now, and should end up with a nice 8-inch cant. Okay, so what I'm going to cut here, because I'm going to take a series of 1-inch boards out of here, I'm going to cut this at 9 inches high. Now there'll be some sapwood in my red oak. I'm not worried about that because it's only on 1 or 2 boards anyway, the top and bottom board. But what it does is it gives me a little extra wood for my 1/8 inch saw curve as I work down the log taking out boards. I went 9 inches high off the bunk rail, that does not mean that I have a 9-inch face there. In fact, the face is a little small because I want to have something to be able to cut and judge the thickness of my boards easier. Side, so I'm putting my dog all the way at the bottom so that I can cut all the way through there if I want to without stopping. Okay? So right now this is like a little guessing game. What I'm going to do is I'll probably cut 1.5 inches off there, see what that looks like. If I have a nice straight piece of red oak in there, I'll cut a 1-inch piece out of that, and I'll use that on the side. I'll set it on my horses and cut the bark off of it later. Otherwise, I bring my table in here and I just load the table up. Now, what I'm looking at here, we can look at the edge and we can say, oh, that's no good, and it's not. But I'm looking at the middle. I've got red oak from one end to the other. The narrowest strip of red oak is about 3 inches right here. So I can get a board out of that, okay? So I'm just gonna bring the saw back, set back up on this, and go down 1 inch and 1/16 to allow for, you know, some of the saw curve, and that'll give me a 1-inch board. And I'm gonna cut a board out of that, and I'm gonna set it over on the table, on the horses. That cut, if you look on this side, it looks like it's a fairly straight board, but on this side, I don't have that great big oak board. I have some sapwood on there. I'm not saying you can't use the sapwood. I'm saying that I don't prefer the sapwood. But what I'm getting at is I can cut flitches off of this and end up with something like a 1x6 or maybe a 1x4, something that I can use this for, so there's no sense in throwing it away. And it's 1 inch thick. Alright, so what we got here now that are going to be nice boards, this is 9 inches that way, 7 1/4 that way. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn this one turn so I have the 9 inch to cut down the board. Otherwise I'll lose a board going down there. So I'm going to turn this and then cut 1 inch boards out of it. No particular reason other than I want as many boards as I can get. I'll still get boards. If if I cut down this way. But if I cut down this direction, I'm going to end up with 7, maybe 6 boards. If I cut down this direction, I should be able to get 8 boards. Okay? And that's what I'm after. So now I will have 1 by 7 1/4 it'll probably be less after I'm done planing it, but I'll have around 8 boards because I've got 9 inches there to fool with. So I'm just going to cut them all down unless I come against something not good looking. There is one knot here, but it doesn't look bad, so I'm not going to worry about it. I bring the saw over to the end of the log. You don't want to go right to the very end in case it's not, in case you have a little taper there. You want to go down just to touch it, bring it back, go down 1 1/16, and then go ahead and make your cut. But I'm starting to get some knots. I'm getting some knots in there, but they're nice and solid, so there's no reason to worry about them. Unless you're looking for clear board. the board off, let me just set you up here. It doesn't hurt to wipe the board off with a brush or something so you can see what you got here. So far I've got some nice looking stuff. It's nice and solid. Here's a little bit of a black knot, but it's still solid. So this is still good looking. I'm still going to cut this the way I have it. With red oak, as you get to the center of the pit, in other words, the center of this tree is about a ½ inch down. You can see, I don't know if you can see it up there, you can see where the center of the tree is. And you tend to get a board or two out of that that's not perfect. That's why you want to try and take care of this wood, this oak, as best as you can as you're cutting through it. Now we can cut on both sides of that and still get a piece of wood out of there. There's nothing wrong with this. I'm putting this on the shelf because on this side, you don't have that problem. Okay, so this would be the better side, the grading side. And this is the side that I would use to tell how good the board is. So I'm going to put this on the pile. Put some stickers down. Now, just by what I have here so far, I would say this next board may not be too good either because of the center of the tree, the pith line running through. But it might be, so I'm just going to cut it anyway, 1 inch. That happened here was I went completely through the pit. You can see it down at this end a little bit, the line right here. But on the next one, I'm not going to have a problem at all. I'm still going to use this because I can cut this board down to do something else with it. It doesn't have to be the full board. still a nice looking red oak board here. There's 2 knots in it there, but I've got clear all the way up there. So I'm still happy with stuff like this. So I've got 6 boards out of there already, and there's at least 2 more in there. So I'm going to cut 1 inch off the top, and then I'll flip that over and cut another inch off the bottom so that I can try to get rid of the cant that's showing up at that end. This side of this board is all clear. Let me just explain this to you, what I'm doing here, so you know. Now this board is very close to 1 inch thick. It's a little more than 1 inch. So what I want to do with this is to turn it over, because you can see there's some flitch or some bark wane showing here, okay, on the edge. So I might be able to get that off. And I also want to try and set the board so that I have as much empty board hanging over the bunk rail at both ends. So here I have about 10 inches. Down there I've got about 8. I could move it down a little bit. Right there. And then I'm going to make sure that's laying flat. Make sure all of the board's touching all of the rails. And then I'm going to put that in place. Dog it. Okay, so now I'll just set the saw for 1 inch up off the bunk, 1 inch and 1/16, and then I'm going to cut that. Okay, so what I had there, the board probably warped when I was as I was cutting down, and I had a little thick piece here and a little thicker down there. But right now that's a 1-inch board there from one end to the other. So that's basically how I do it. Sometimes things will make me change. Sometimes I don't feel like turning a log, I won't. It all depends how it goes. There is a little bit of wane on this one, but hey, it's not a big deal. Let's see, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 8 boards plus that little one, 9 boards altogether. If you look down there, it's nice and straight looking board. Same thickness all the way down. Now it looks heavier here because of the way that it looks to you like when you make a drawing or something, but it's a nice 1-inch board all the way down, and it's clear basically, not a knot in that one. Alright, so we've got a layer and a half there. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 boards with this 1x4 that's over here. So thanks for watching, guys. Keep asking your questions. If it's alright, you know, with telling something that I've done previously, and that's what you're basically doing. The more people you get on your channel, sometimes they don't get to see all your videos in the past, and if the newer ones show something, then they can see it. So alright, that's it for today. I gotta clean this mess up then. Hope Carmine comes back soon. Have a good one.